Hi, Phil Hundl here with a quick pipeline update, and this is on the Trident Pipeline or Kinder Morgan Trident Pipeline, high pressure gas line, 42 to 48 inch diameter pipeline, very large, starting from Katy, going up and over Houston, essentially, affecting multiple counties. If you're a landowner affected by this pipeline, you have already been contacted and there has already been surveying on your property. And at this point, many landowners are receiving an initial offer letter or initial offer packet. And that's what I want to go into right now. We've done one of these segments before, and so I'd like to talk to you about how to review and evaluate that initial offer packet. All right, so let's take a look at this, what you, the landowner, have received or will be receiving from Trident. And this is, as we mentioned, the initial, and let me play around a little bit with some of this on screen, but you'll get something that's called the initial offer to acquire easements. This is what we call the initial offer letter. And it's going to they will reference your tract in a particular way. So let me see if I can, so here's where the reference will be for your tract number. We've redacted this particular initial offer letter. And then they'll reference the county where you are, and then also the initial sum that they are offering in this initial offer letter, and that will be that amount. And they have some other information here as well in the letter. Obviously, as you scroll down and you get to the second page, the contact info. Although these Trident, and those of you that have either been contacted directly by the law firms, there's 3 law firms that are representing Trident on this project in an attempt to get survey access, and maybe they have filed a temporary restraining order or application for temporary restraining order or temporary injunction against you. So you've become aware of the 3 law firms that are working with Trident, but at least right now, this is the right-of-way acquisition company that they're using, TRC. And so that's why sometimes, and it can be confusing because we have some folks here from Kinder Morgan directly, and then we've got some folks here mentioned that are with the right-of-way acquisition company. And then you have also possibly even been in contact or been contacted by one of the 3 law firms that Trident has been using. So with that, this is the letter that you would have received, and then further behind this is a form easement that what they propose. I have not included that in here because I don't want to spend much time or any time on their proposed easement document. But what I do want to do is spend some time on the plat, that the preliminary plat that or diagram that they've provided you. And what do I want you to focus on here is I want you to take a look at this in the corner. This is talking about the width of the permanent easement that they will be seeking. We have heard different widths from time to time on this project, and in this particular tract, it's a 50-foot wide permanent easement that they're seeking. Another important part of the review or analysis of the initial offer packet is reviewing this preliminary diagram. And once again, it's preliminary, it can change, and they often do change, but at least for now, this is what I want you to refer to. This is the legend down here, and it is going to give you an idea of what these different colors or hatchings are representing. And so the yellow here is the temporary easement area, the area in blue, the blue lines, that's the boundaries of the permanent easement area. As we looked here at the top, this represents this down here. So in the top corner, this more designated with footage or widths is then depicted here in the diagram of the aerial of your tract. So also important to pay attention. Let me see if I can zoom in some. There are also some, as you can see, some additional temporary, and we're going to do these in yellow. So here you can see some additional temporary workspace. So this ATWS is what we call, and they refer to it as the additional temporary workspace. So you have the permanent easement area, temporary easement area, next to and along the permanent easement area, and then you have the ATWS, or additional temporary workspace. That's in addition to the yellow, the temporary easement area. Other things just to pay attention to: you may own more land than what is depicted in the tract. You actually potentially, as a landowner, may own this land, but for reasons that Trident and the surveyors have determined, they're only going to use this perimeter or boundary of your tract, and that's labeled in PL. So things to look at: sometimes the tract described, or the property line or property boundary, is incorrect. It very possibly could be property that you may have sold a portion of already, and so that their designation of this whole tract being yours may be wrong. And then there's estimates that you can take a look at here in the kind of the bottom part of this diagram right here. And this will give you an estimate or idea of the number of linear feet that this permanent easement area is encompassing across your property. And then what does that calculate in permanent easement acreage, or permanent easement area acreage, temporary easement area acreage, additional temporary workspace here acreage. And then also, extremely important, if Trident were seeking, and on many tracts or on some tracts they are seeking, a permanent access road or a temporary access road, and that information would be here. On this particular tract, it's 0 linear feet that they're seeking, because they're not seeking any temporary access roads. But if there was a temporary access road, that would potentially be indicated, for example, here, and then it would be labeled PAR or TAR, and that would indicate that also, in addition to paying attention to the pipeline and the amount affected on your property in the pipeline, you need to pay attention to this temporary access road or permanent access road that could be affecting your property. So hopefully that's helpful for you as a landowner evaluating this initial offer packet or initial offer letter. Also, many times the landowners they see this diagram and say, well, this is not a civil engineering plat. And you're correct. This is just a diagram. It's an estimate of what they intend to do on your property, or the easements they plan or intend to take on your property. But of course, it's not finalized, the acreages or the linear feet, and is definitely not sufficient for finalizing an easement on your property. But just understand it is a diagram that's just included to give you somewhat of an idea of what they're intending to take on your property as far as easements go.